Hi, my name is Phil Roberts, also known as BrewShackBBQ on Instagram and BrewShackBBQ.com. I put it on Instagram earlier this week on who would like me to do more instructional or sort of cook through videos, and the response was generally really positive. So I decided that I was going to do it, and this is the start of what hopefully will become a fairly consistent channel. Just to give you a bit of background on me, I've been a food enthusiast all my life. Started cooking little pasta dishes and fry-ups and things like that for my parents and my family at home, and then that kind of developed into a real yearn to learn more about food, cooking and everything that went into it. About 3-4 years ago, I bought my first barbecue. It was an offset smoker, it was only a cheap one, but I still have it today. It's changed a lot, it's modded, but that has kind of been a really good analogy for my development as a cook, and equally as someone, let's call myself a barbecue practitioner. I'll never ever claim to be an expert, because I'm not. I am someone who is still at the very start of my journey compared to some, but ultimately every day is still a school day. It doesn't matter whether you've been doing it for 5 or 10 years, there's always something new to learn. So the purpose of this channel is going to be anything from cook along videos, which there is already one that I did in association with Hobgoblin, to kit videos like I'm going to do today. And what that is going to be, it's going to be a quick rundown of the essential kit that I feel that I need to get some good barbecue done at home. There are going to be differing opinions, there always are. By all means, willing to discuss it, bang it in the comments and we'll talk about it, or hit me up on Instagram. Anything, we can always have a chat about it, but everyone's going to have their own take on things. There's no yes or no, right or wrong answer in a lot of these sort of questions. Sometimes people have got different principles to using different types of charcoal, be it briquettes or single species lumpwood. There are lots and lots of variables within barbecue, but this channel and these videos are going to be from my perspective and what I prefer to do, and that's it. Okay, so definitely never adverse to learning new things and trying to take in new information. So by all means, if you've got something you want to share, bring it my way. Always game for it. But these videos are going to be built on what I do and what I have done and what I've learned in the last 4 years, 3-4 years. So what we're going to do today is we're going to go through some essential kit that I think you need to get your barbecue up to a decent level, and they are so simple. Some of them you might just think, well, obviously, why are you even talking about it? But because they're so simple, a lot of people can forget, especially on the first few cooks, and this is basically who that video is for. So welcome to the channel, and let's get started. Okay, so what I'm going to do first of all, we're going to go through really quickly the essential kitchen tools that I feel I need to get the job done, and then we'll move out to the barbecue shack and I'll show you some of my setups in terms of the barbecues and the charcoal and things like that. Okay, so first of all, and one of the most overlooked items, is a good butcher block or chopping board. When we're cooking big pieces of meat like brisket or ribs, anything like that, we're going to need somewhere to place them, set them up so we can serve. A good chopping board is going to be essential, preferably one with, which I have got over there, a beveled edge to catch some of those juices so you don't get them running down your washing machine. So that's number one. Number two, a good chef's knife. Now, absolute minefield chef knives, and you know there are hundreds of different types of knives, from Suntaku blades to paring knives, and it's an absolute nightmare when you first get started to know what's what. The most essential knife you could possibly have in your arsenal is a chef's knife. They will be badged as such on websites, in supermarkets, etc. This is a Napoleon chef's knife, which was made out of Durham and steel. It cost me around about £50. That doesn't have to be the case. You can get chef's knives from Sainsbury's. Just look after them. Keep them sharp. Try to avoid sticking them in those knife noodles. I always find that just helps along the blunting process. Keep them nice and clean. Dry them as soon as you clean them. Don't leave them on a drying rack, as they will tend to oxidise and it damages the blade. To be honest, it looks horrible. And then make sure you keep it sharp. A sharp knife, essential. Again, when you've got your ribs, you've spent hours cutting them, you just try and cut them with a blunt knife, and you're just pushing away all that work. And to be honest, let's be fair, the majority of us are going to stick that picture on Instagram. You don't want blunt force trauma on your ribs. So, nice, sharp knife. Handle with care, obviously, rather than me just waving it around just now. And yeah, look after the knife, it'll look after you. So that's number 2. Okay, number 3, another easy one, but something we should all probably have in drawers, cupboards, etc. And that is either strong kitchen foil or some butcher's paper. Now, I always pick the strong foil because that thin stuff is going to cause you more problems than it's worth. You're wrapping something, you get a bone protruding out of it, then you lose all the liquid, and not great. Get strong kitchen foil, or as I said, butcher paper. Butcher's paper is fantastic for keeping that moisture in. Equally, sometimes I use both. So again, really important, cheap, but essential. So don't forget that. Next up is a good spice mix or rub. So a lot of our flavour is obviously going to come from the wood and the charcoal that we use. However, the best barbecue comes from the chemical reactions from salts, sugars, herbs and spices. So you need a really good, be it a base rub, which is going to be mainly salt, pepper, maybe a few herbs like this one, maybe a bit of garlic. This one is by Good Rub. Now this is a relatively new startup, and to be fair, I had a few tubs, I don't know, 2-3 weeks ago, and I'm nearly out, so that is a sign of a very good rub. Equally, I have started making my own as well, only small batches, around about 100 at a time. It's a little furlough project to sort of keep me sane, just as this is while I'm off work. So this one is Cajun Barbecue, and again, just to sort of give it a little bit of a lift, and salt, sugar, pepper, paprika, garlic, etc. is going to completely transform your food as soon as it touches the fire. If you haven't got the budget to buy shop bought or pre-made rubs, that's fine. You know, loads of us are in very different situations right now. We don't know when we're going to be coming out of it, etc. So by all means, check out my ebook that's available on the website. It's a free download link. Help yourself. There's some rub recipes in there. Equally, just have a look online. The vast majority of people are going to tell you something like a brisket, for instance, doesn't need much more than salt and pepper, and it's absolutely right. So don't overthink it. Equally, but if you can get hold of something, or you can put something together with a little bit of spice, a little bit of sugar, sometimes it's going to make just that 10% difference. It's going to really sort of elevate your food, and yeah, give you a good time. So yeah, that's one of my essentials. Next essential is the heat resistant glove. So the heat resistant glove is twofold really. It's good for when you're smoking and managing a fire and you've got to add more fuel. You don't want to burn all your hand hair off when you're dropping a bit more charcoal into the Weber. Equally, it's really good when you're cooking over direct heat. Maybe you're getting a bit of a flare up, you know, and ultimately your prongs are going to get hot. They're always going to get hot, but this is going to help protect your hand against the metal prong that is now searing hot from hovering over some violently hot coals for longer than they probably should have. So it's always a good one. Speaking of which, tongs. Again, what people tend to do is use forks and all sorts, and they're putting holes in all their food, and you're losing a lot of those essential juices. So these are always at my side when I need to remove something or flip something from the barbecue. But that raises the question, when do we know how long something has been on the barbecue, and when do we know when to take it off? Take the guesswork out of it, and get one of these. That is a Thermopen. Thermopen is a thermometer at the end of this lovely little probe. That goes into the meat and will give you an instant reading, and it's very fast, an instant reading in terms of the temperature that you're looking for. So for example, with a piece of chicken, we're looking for roughly around about 74 degrees. You will know instantaneously whether you need to cook that longer or you need to take it off. Or, sometimes is the case, you've had it on too long. So that is the #1 tool you need to perfect your barbecue. Moving that up a level, if we're doing any smoking or longer cooks, I use a Thermometer. Now there are many different brands on the market, Meter, Thermometer, loads. I use Thermometer because, to be honest, it's affordable and it's very effective. Same principle, but you've got this little receiver on the end. Not quite as quick if you were to test something straight away, you know, say if you've got something direct and you've got one of these kicking about, it's not quite as quick as the Thermopen, but when you're leaving it in meat straight away and just sort of, not straight away, when you're leaving it in meat and sort of letting it sit and it's kind of slowly coming up to temperature, this is ideal. So in the center of a brisket, or the fattest part of the center of the fattest part of a brisket rather, that goes in, that, if I just turn it on, that tells me what temperature it is. So let's just do the inside of my hand. So the inside of my hand is running at 25 degrees. So we'll turn the receiver on. And that is set to chicken currently, because that was my last cook. And that is going to tell me, okay, it's 34 degrees, see what I mean? It's not as quick, but we're looking at 34 degrees and we are looking for 74. Okay, so as soon as that hits 74, it's going to bleep and you know when to take it off. So again, that is an absolute lifesaver when doing long, low and slow cooks. So that is the be all and end all of your setup. So in terms of initial kitchen tools, that's kind of it. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to take you out to the BrewShackBBQ barbecue shack, and I'm going to quickly show you my barbecues and what I usually need to set up. Okay? Okay, so up here, we'll start as we mean to go on. These are some eco-friendly fire lighters, so I'll just get one of those out. There you go. So that is made out of wood shavings, and that just goes under my starter. Just one or two of them is enough to get a full sort of serving of charcoal going, and yeah, away you go, rather than using those nasty white chemical things that you might get from a petrol station. It's just a bit cleaner for the smoker. I don't use that too often. A cleaning brush for the grills. That's just a tub full of more of those. And the #1 piece of kit if you are getting into barbecue, you can tell one's had more use than the other. These are starter chimneys. So charcoal goes in, fire lighter under the unit, light it through the holes, wait. As soon as the charcoals are lit, or the charcoal is lit rather, straight onto the barbecue, ready to go. Takes all the guesswork out of it. Didn't want to build a window, so put some bottles up there. Looks good, I think. Delirium Elephant. Hello. Best beer in the world, I'll have you know. And this is my Kamado. So, just double check it's clean. Yep. So that is a little Kamado cooker. You'll have seen these potentially online. They tend to be very expensive. This one was not, however, because Lidl, believe it or not, we're selling these bad boys for 80 quid, and it is probably the best 80 quid I've ever spent. So it keeps temperature really well with the lid shut. It's a good little grilling space. Again, if you're just cooking for 1 or 2 people, you've got some temperature control there, so you can control the airflow, but that's a video all on its own in terms of fire management. And you've also got a little adjustment collar at the top, which you can spin when it doesn't stick. There you go. You can spin completely off, or just limit the airflow again by adjusting the top. Really good bit of kit for 80 quid. You cannot grumble. So this is Brian. Again, Brian's worth a video all on its own. It was the first smoker I ever got about 4 years ago, there or thereabouts, and to be fair, that has had an absolute beating. I tend to use it for direct grilling now more than anything. But yeah, let's have a quick look at Brian and I'll show you the details of an offset smoker. Okay, so you can see there are two distinct chambers there on good old Brian. Here you've got a firebox. That firebox, obviously, and you're not getting any prizes for guessing, is where the charcoal and the wood goes. That is largely where the meat goes, or the food. If you're a vegetarian barbecue practitioner, that's fine, no judgment. And what you'll find is on these smokers when you buy them, they're really I'll be honest, leaky. So what I've done, as this system was only actually £80 when I bought it, and it's lasted me, again, nearly 4 years now, and I can't really grumble with it. The only thing I've done is put heat sealant on the inside, or heat resistant sealant rather, around that hole, and you can see that little yellow ring around the chimney. That is all heat resistant sealant. I've also used it on other parts that are a bit leaky to keep some of that smoke in. The other problem you'll have is heat going in to that part and then just going straight across the top and out, so you'll get basically undercooked food from the bottom. What I did was fitted a convector plate, which you can see there. It was an old cookie tray, got in a little bit of trouble for that because I did not ask permission, but nabbed that cookie tray, cut it to size, bent it so it kind of flicks the smoke and the heat upwards, and yeah, you get a nice sort of rolling heat through that chamber now. And I tend to, if I'm going to use it for smoking, I tend to use Brian for like wings and smaller things, as I've got the Weber for the bigger cooks. But yeah, offsets are good. The only downside to them is that firebox can be quite small. So if you're doing a longer cook, like, you know, your briskets and etc., you might have to top that fuel up, especially if you're using like single wood, lumpwood charcoal. You're gonna have to top that fuel up probably every hour, there or thereabouts, and that ash is going to build up. That is not a lot of room for that ash to sort of escape the fire, so eventually I found that it was choking the fire quite easily. So that is why I moved to a water smoker, which is what I will show you now. Okay, so this is a water smoker. This is probably one of the more advanced systems that Weber do in terms of sort of like live fire barbecues, so not taking into consideration their new sort of electronic Traeger equivalents. This is the beast. So the reason it's called a water smoker is that this particular barbecue is essentially in 3 stages. Okay, so at the bottom right here, that's where the charcoal goes, essentially a fire pit. In the middle, so you can see that there, so you've got your fire pit at the bottom, then you've got a coal chamber for any metal fans, and you've got a water pan which you fill with water, which heats up and creates an atmospheric sort of moist heat above to sort of help things not dry out. And then above you've got 2 cooking grates, one right above it, which I've taken out because I'm cleaning it at the moment, and then one at the very top, okay, just underneath the lid there. So if we just, okay, so this is the biggest size, the 57. So I could probably do a quick brush off actually when I've got 5. So point is, that is a really big, generous cooking space. Now if I was doing a full brisket, I've got no dramas getting that on there and having absolutely no issues. Failing that, I have done, how many was it? 1, 2, 3, 6 chickens, but I could get more on there quite easily. But this is kind of my biggest and favourite system. I use this 2, maybe 3 times a week. Brian gets used potentially every couple of days. and then the little mini egg that'll get used almost daily in some cases. It just depends what I've got on. If I'm only cooking for myself or maybe one or two other people, then that is the one that I'll go to, because it just maintains heat so well. You can manage the fire so easily, even though it's just got one vent at the top and one at the bottom. It's absolutely banging. But just to go back to the Weber, in terms of this system, it's they're ceramic coated, so they retain heat really well, they last, they don't really rust if you look after them, and yeah, it's an absolutely banging system. But if we go back to what I was talking about earlier, and the probe thermometer, the one that you leave in the food, you can see, I don't know whether you can see there without me moving it, it's going to fall apart if I move it too much. So it's 3 independent pieces that come apart. So there you'll see there's a little grommet is the word, and you can stick the thermometer through there, up through the grill into the food, and just leave it be without having to worry about the lid cutting the cable or damaging it long term. So again, absolutely banging system. Obviously you've got this little thing, I can never get this on first try, but I did this time. Yeah, again, Weber Smoky Mountain, my favourite system and the go-to. Okay, so the last part of this video is going to be really quickly talking about charcoal. Now, I'm planning on doing a sort of starting and managing your fire video, so I will cover this in more detail at another time. But for this particular video, I'll just be really quick. So there in frame we've got 3 different types of barbecue fuel. Okay, so these 2 on the left, the green bag is by Alderline. That is a pure alderwood charcoal. It's really quick to light, it's really easy to use, and I like it a lot. In the middle we've got probably one of the most famous brands right now, and it's really doing bits in terms of in the community. It's on everyone's Instagram story, it seems. That is Whittle and Flame. That is from sustainable Cornbury ash wood, I believe, that one. And that is, so these 2 are very specific single wood charcoals, and they are lump wood. So again, we'll cover the difference between those in more detail in another video, but the point is they are a single species of tree, and they are lumps of wood, hence the term lump wood. So on the right hand side what we have is an Australian brand of briquette called Heat Beads. I use them quite a lot for my long sort of low and slow cooks. Again, briquettes are hotly contested. I feel like that's a poor pun, but briquettes can be quite divisive among people in the community. Some people like them, some people don't, as they have to have some kind of chemical assistance to bond. These particular ones, Heat Beads, are engineered to retain and maintain their heat for longer, so it can really help you on those long cooks. So sometimes, I'll be honest, I just like using them, whereas a single wood charcoal like these lump woods on the left will burn for about an hour ish, give or take, depending on the size of the pieces. The Heat Beads will burn for roughly around about 4 to 5 hours without any interruption, so you can see the benefits there. Equally, you just have to relight any fuel before you put it on, so you don't release any of those chemicals onto the food, whereas the lump woods you could just keep chucking fuel on and not really have to worry about it. So the one thing I'm not going to talk about right now in too much detail, because it's going to be part of that charcoal video, is wood. So you do not get smoked flavour from charcoal alone. You will get some kind of flavour if you cook dirty, which is no grill, just cooked straight on top of the coals. Very popular in sort of Southern America, Argentina, etc. But what we're looking for, especially when we're cooking with the Weber, is we're looking for smoke. So you're going to need some kiln dried wood. I usually recommend some sort of applewood, to be honest. Applewood or cherry wood are my usual go-tos, but that kind of draws us into closing this video of all my sort of useful kit. I will be doing another video really soon about starting and managing that fire, and it will go into all of this in more detail. So hopefully you found that useful, and if there's any questions, just drop me a message or follow me on Instagram and drop me a message on there. Cheers.